Another Oera Linda Book episode. What did this culture look like? Today we're gonna dive into the archaeology. Stick around. Yeah, welcome back. Another Friday, another episode. Here we are again. And thank you all, guys, for your perfect interaction because, our Ura Linda episodes, they're really catching along. You guys seem to like them. I enjoy doing them, so we're going to keep doing them. And so today, another Ura Linda book episode, we're going to dive into the culture that's really that we what is it that we can actually find. So we're going to dive into that, but first, before we do that, we have our community comments. Yeah, so here we are. Our first comment, of course. Hey, who could have guessed? It's from Oera Linda, the YouTube channel. Well, I know that channel, and that channel is run by Jan Ott. So let's read what Jan has to say. So he put a timestamp on the previous episode, around 34 minutes. And this is about where I displayed the Frisian Museum having a copy of the Oera Linda book. And he says, I think the museum displays an actual part of the manuscript. At least it used to be, if they not recently changed it. The contract of the donation insisted it would never leave the library. So officially they declared the museum to be part of the library. And then they moved it there. I guess the short transport from the library to the museum was not considered as leaving the library. That's very interesting. I didn't know that. So I thought it was a fake because the manuscript is supposed to be stored at the Tresor, and Tresor is the Frisian word for treasure. And that's a completely different area as where the museum is at. So I guess if it is the actual manuscript, or maybe it's a page from the manuscript, because I think it's not the entire thing. Well, then they have split it apart, and I guess that's what curators do for you. But thank you, Ura Linda, for correcting me on that. I'm glad you guys keep me short, and we got another correction. This one was from the Bruce Picks. This is I believe this is Bruce Stanford. Also, you talked about the Frya's people. In the English version, we talk about the Frya people, which I personally understand as denoting the free people, the Frya's language. So I guess I misspoke. So it's really good to have a handle on the correct language. So Frya means the free people, the free. Frya means free. Um, Whenever you talk about Friday, it's supposed to be a free day. It's Frya's day. So the S, you're very correct, Bruce. It shouldn't belong in there. So let's see what else we got. We got a ton of community comments. So keep doing those. So this one, this is from the truth shall shed us. The truth shall set us free. Number 11. I guess the first 10 were taken, and it's in Dutch, so we translated it. Dear, how nice that you have set up this channel. I have watched a number of videos and ended up here through the interview with Jan Ott. You cover important topics that are needed to raise awareness and take action in these times. Do you have other social media where you can be found, or an email address to get in touch? Greetings. It's a really nice comment. Currently, I am on TikTok. I'm trying to get a little promotion snippets going there. Yeah, YouTube is the main platform where we're active. I'm gonna try to get an email open to so you can actually send me a direct email so that I can respond to you in private. But for now, since we're still building up this channel, please leave a comment down below and stick around. Make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you give us likes so we keep growing and we keep showing up in other people's feeds. So that's the main thing for doing so. Yeah, if you would be so kind to do so in the future, I will drop an email address at some point, and I will also start to be available for yeah, for people who want to interact with me directly. It should be good. So next up is Kai Hessel's 5564, also translated it into English. Did you hear that an old Frisian manuscript was found 6 days ago? Maybe we will now also learn more about the Oera Linda Book. Beautiful work you do, by the way, very interesting. Yeah, it was Kai Hessel's. I have heard about that. It was very interesting. But it also, what we find is when this gets discovered, we see that they kind of keep it like obscure. The news article that I found, it was in Frisian. And I don't know how many people speak Frisian. I mean, most Dutch people don't even speak Frisian. So it's a very intriguing way that they handle this. So yeah, I think it should be more open, because Kai is definitely right. There might be things in there. We don't know for sure. There's the contents of the document hasn't been released yet, but it very well might be. There's some. It's about some law document, and yeah, of course, we know that the Oera Linda book also contains a lot of laws of how to live. And the Frisians, they had a lot of laws even before the Netherlands did. So it might very well be a confirmation of what we already know. I've taken the liberty to translate the Frisian into English. So just to do you guys a favor, I'm gonna read it for you. So this is the article that went public in Frisian. I translated it with Google Translate. So if there's some mistakes, you know why. It's not every day that new pieces of old Frisian are found. And if it happens, it should be far from Friesland, in Vienna. Yet it is so. Professor Dr. Nedoma talks about it in a written interview following his publication of the find. Some time ago, in the Österreichische National Library in Vienna, received a collection of manuscript fragments from the heirs of Dr. Joseph Bick, who lived from 1880 till 1952. For reasons of privacy, the library cannot go into details, but this much is clear, that the pieces from the private library of Dr. Bick came. They came from the private library of Dr. Bick. Bick was director of the National Library during his lifetime, but apparently could not distance himself from the fragments, either then or after his retirement. Or would he not have known which pieces they were when he tapped them onto the head as a student in 1904 in Prague? He tapped them on the head. That means, it's a literal translation from Dutch. He bought them in 1904 in Prague. Anyway, supposedly Prague. Anyway, the fragments ended up in 2022 on the desk of Conservator of Manuscripts and Old Prints, Dr. Katarina Kaska. She saw that the 12 double-sided pages of paper contained, in addition to Latin material, text in a Germanic language. So she contacted Dr. Elke Krutz, the specialist in Old High German from the University of Vienna. Krutz knew the language as Old Frisian. and immediately thought of her colleague, Professor Robert Nedoma, the only Old Germanist in Vienna who had engaged himself more often with Old Frisian. Indeed, Nedoma had written more than once about Frisian runic inscriptions and also extensively discussed the Volständiges Wörterbuch zum Westerlauwenschen, Jus Municipale Frisionum, that was published in 1996 by Wibren Jan Buma. Nedoma soon saw that he had to do with West-Lauwersk Old Frisian. I already knew that I would see Old Frisian, but I could not have known that there would be new text like this, and I became more and more excited when after, in some depth study, I realized which texts they were. The pièce de résistance are 4 pages in a 15th century handwritten with 26 provisions from the Wilkeren of 5 parts. Those Wilkeren, as such, are well known. They have been handed down in the aforementioned Old Frisian manuscript, Jum Municipale Frisionum, but also in Codex Unia and in Druk, the first book printed in Frisian. However, the special thing about the passages in the Fragmenta Vindobonesia, as I have called the fragments, said Nedoma, is the language form of the Wilkeren. It is much older than the manuscript itself and can be dated to the beginning of the 14th century on the basis of many linguistic criteria. This means that these editions of the Wilkeren can be equated in terms of dating with the oldest parts of Codex Unia, and with the oldest surviving Frisian charter from 1323, Nedoma can establish that it is not the original text of the Wilkeren, but that it concerns a copy from a collection. According to Nedoma, the important thing about that conclusion is that around 1300 manuscripts with Frisian legal text were circulated in Westerlauwersk Friesland, as well as in Easterlauwersk Friesland. Until now, we could find such a thing plausible, but now we have more support for that hypothesis. Another surprise that the fragments threw up was a page with 5 Old Frisian legal provisions, with reference to canonical and Roman law. 2 of them are also in other Old Frisian manuscript, but the other 3, as it seems, have no counterpart and deserve further research. Rolf Bremmer and Anne Popkema are involved in this. The Latin pieces which make up the most of the Viennese fragments are passages from the Doctorale Puerorum, a very popular grammar in verse from Alexander de Ville de, a commentary and a papal bull, both not further identified. The watermark of the paper has not been yet determined, but once that is known, it can help to date the manuscript and see if all the leaves are from the same batch of paper. If so, that could mean that the manuscript was made in one place. That would have been somewhere in Eastergo, or at least if we go by Frisian, Weze appears as Vasa, and for Svera, Swara, that is Swara 6 times in the Wilkeren. And where there is usually a short E is a typical northeastern phenomenon. About Vienna, ONB, Robert Nedoma said, yeah, I'm just gonna cut that off because that's a whole bunch of German that it didn't translate. The article will appear in somewhere halfway August, which it already is. So I don't know when it will become available to the public, but yeah, it should be interesting to hear about that. So thank you very much for commenting on that, and yeah, if you guys want me to cover any other topics, I'll be happy to do so. So let's see, do we have any more comments? Yes, this is a comment that went under the interview of Jan Ott. It's from Vicky's9363, and he or she said, "Darn, English CC would have been very helpful." Well, I know. I'm very sorry, Vicky's. is not is not very easy to translate to get a transcript of a Dutch conversation and then get it published into English. So it's taken a lot of time, but a lot of help as well, because the Bruce Pix said, looks like my first comment got deleted by the algorithm, so I will repeat. Great job with the interview. I'd be pleased to translate the transcript, and I will try to get this done this weekend. So Bruce has delivered. So at this point, the interview with Jan Ott has been transcripted, translated into English. So if you're an English-speaking person, please go over to the interview, and it is subtitled, and you can definitely check along, read along. It's a very, very interesting conversation, and I hope to have Jan Ott back on the podcast at some point, and perhaps we can have a conversation in English for our English speaking audience. Also, by the way, if you have any tips for how to do a good transcript into Dutch with maybe AI system that works better than well, the usual YouTube algorithm, but is like really clear and concise, that doesn't take a lot of work afterwards to correct or to clean up. Yeah, please put something down in the comments, because yeah, it's really it really helps us out, and especially since we're a beginning channel, it would be nice if it's some kind of software that's maybe a freeware. So yeah, let's continue. Talita Blau says, good work, greetings from Vrijstaat, South Africa. That's perfect. This is my dream, is that this show does not only stay in the Netherlands, but it goes all over the world. So I'm very happy to have you, South Africa. Please share this in your surroundings, because what we're discussing here, the Oera Linda Book, is not only the Dutch or the Frisian origin. It's the entire origin of everyone that came from the Netherlands or England or anywhere from the Western culture. We all should know about this. So yeah, share this around. All right, I think that's it for the community comments. Thank you guys so much for sharing, and yeah, please give me some more sugar, because this is really these comments. This is my crack. This is what keeps me going. This is what makes me want to engage in this show more. So yeah, if you like it, if there's something that sticks out to you, then put something down below. Okay. Let's continue with our regular show for today. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna dive a little bit into the history. So last week we discussed that the Oera Linda Book had mentioned Atlant, or the sinking of Atlant, and of course we know of that by Plato. And so let's get into Plato for today. Let's start with that. This is Plato's Critias. There you see it. So I'm going to read you a little bit from Critias, because Plato describes what Atlantis looked like according to the Egyptians, which delivered this story to him. So that's right. The Egyptian story of Atlantis, it came to via a completely different route than the Oera Linda Book Atlantis. But let's dive into deep, and let's see how Plato describes Atlantis. Okay, you ready? Here we go. Shrines and sacrifices. Even so, Poseidon took for his allotment the island of Atlantis, and settled therein the children whom he had begotten of a mortal woman in a region of the island of the following description. Bordering on the sea and extending through the center of the whole island, there was a plain, which is said to have been the fairest of all plains and highly fertile, and moreover, nearly the plain over against its center, at a distance of about 50 stades. There stood a mountain that was low on all sides. Thereon dwelt one of the natives, originally sprung from the earth, Evenor, by name, with his wife Lucipi. Evenor and Lucipi, I mean, yeah, those are your neighbors, right? And they had four offspring, an only begotten daughter, Cleto. And when this damsel was now to come to a marriageable age, her mother died, and also her father, and Poseidon, being smitten with desire for her, wedded her. And to make the hill whereon she dwelt impregnable, he broke it off all round about, and he made circular belts of sea and land, enclosing one another alternately. Alternately, some greater, some smaller, 2 being of land, and 3 of sea, which he carved as it were out of the midst of the island, and these belts were at an even distance on all sides, so as to be impassable for man. For at that time neither ships nor sailing were as yet in existence, and Poseidon himself set in order with ease, as a god would, the central island, bringing up from beneath the earth 2 springs of water, the one flowing warm from its source, and the other cold, and producing out of the earth all kinds of food in plenty. And he begat 5 pairs of twin sons, and reared them up. And when he had divided all the islands of Atlantis into 10 portions, he assigned to the firstborn of the eldest sons, which was Atlas. Yeah, also interesting that the Oera Linda Book also talks about twins, a lot of twins that lived in Atlantis. So, but the most important thing that I want to talk about today is the way that the city is described. So as you can see on the right here, I've made a picture for you. It's yeah, it's basically what is described. It's a center of circular rings, concentric circles, and land and water and all of that. And this is a very interesting pattern. And this pattern, I think it's good if we start to examine this a little bit, because this pattern hasn't been only found in Atlantis. There's recently there was Jimmy Corsetti who made some videos on YouTube, and he had discovered this, or basically rediscovered this this other concentric ring circle, which was the Richat structure, and this is in Mauritania. All the white that you can see there, that's salt, and there's supposed to be there's supposed to be white stone and red stone and black stone, kind of like a basalt kind of stone. And yeah, it's supposed to be there, except no one can really investigate it because Mauritania is littered with landmines. Yeah, it's a very poor country. Its army still works with camels, so nobody can really go there. Nobody can really investigate this, and also Mauritania is very restrictive about that. But it is interesting that this is found there. Now, I don't believe that this is Atlantis, which is what some people think. I think Atlantis was in the Atlantic Ocean, but it might definitely be a very ancient city that we haven't discovered yet. So could be very interesting. Concentric circles. Of course, the Oera Linda book doesn't talk doesn't talk about the people that goes to Mauritania or Africa. They talk about the Frya people who lived around the area of Doggerland, and for that we have a map here of Doggerland, and I've put in a red dot on the map, which is which is an island range in the north of Scotland, which it nowadays is, and the island is called Orkney. And Orkney is a very interesting place because Orkney has a lot of megaliths. There's this stone circle, which is also, it's a concentric ring circle. There's the inner lining. Now I don't know if it's a 6-spoke wheel in the middle there. Could be, but it might have been eroded. And then surrounding it, there's these megalithic stones, and I mean, look at those stones. Those stones, they call them the razor blade stones, and I mean, you can see why. They're very thin, they're very long, but not only that, they're very straight. They're very, I mean, if you want to look for nature for stones like this, you're not going to find them very quickly. It's very difficult to find a lot of them. So it almost looks like this stone circle was made of older stones, like earlier stones that are that were taken from somewhere, and then they put them around in a circle, and they dug a hill or a moat around them. So yeah, very interesting. And it's another concentric circle. So let's have a look.
This is one of the most important sites, one of the most important archaeological excavations of this century, really, and it's been going on for over a decade now, I think 15 or 16 years, and Nick Card, who's the head archaeologist, is the guy who's been kind of organising and working with this. They found some remarkable things here, evidence of occupation going back to at least 3,500 BC, possibly older, because one of the new trenches, which we'll have a look at, actually suggests this, and this is actually just inside what they found, this huge outer wall which would have like protected the whole area. So whether this was some kind of university or some kind of enclosure or living quarters is still up for debate, but to me it's very, very special, and it's not just like where people would live or be buried. There's something else going on here. It's almost like a school of teaching, that they were teaching all the measurements and the geometry and the landscape engineering that we know they were masters of here, and they actually developed here because some of the earliest stone circles are from here.
Yeah, it's a very interesting place. So let's see if we can get a look at it. So what we see here, this is some of the archaeological findings of the Ness of Brodgar. Now, if you look at this is highly unusual. If you see any kind of old buildings that people have found in an archaeological dig, such as maybe the Nuraghi on Sardinia or any other type of place, you almost never see stonework this concise. It looks very good still after so much time. And this, mind you, this is an archaeological site that dates back before 3500 BC. So it could be Mesolithic even. So, and that would mean that it would could stretch back from the age of Doggerland to the Bronze Age. So very interesting. Also, if you see the stones, they're very flat, just like the stone circle stones, except these are smaller. There's more interesting to say about the Ness of Brodgar. For instance, they had like a gutter system. If you look at the picture below, on the right, you can see something. Maybe it's like a rainwater system, or maybe it's a system for sewage or whatever might it be. And if you look at the top picture, very clear straight edges. The corners are magnificent. Still, after all this time, they're very well done, which is very interesting. Here's some more pictures. This is how tight the stones are found together. If they're still intact, this is what it looks like. Very interesting site. And these sites, they dig them up, and what do they find? They find like stone spheres around them. Now these are not found exactly there, but they have been found in this archaeological finding. And again, you can see the one on the bottom right, concentric circles. Circles and circles and circles with a dot in the middle. Now in the middle there's a cross there, which is also very important, especially if you go further on in the Celtic era. Yeah, and then the dividing one with kind of almost like a grid on top of a sphere. Very interesting. More like this, concentric circles in circles in circles. Yeah, a lot of stone spheres, and this is a very hard stone. This is a stone that is basalt, and basalt is not easily carvable. So first of all, think about how you're going to get that stone smooth, like as a ball. And then second of all, think about how you're going to curve those circles inside of there. So very interesting. Yeah, I mean, this is, I think, this is the most important thing, I think, because let me show you here. So what you can see on the left, this stone, now a lot of paint has been put on there, and that's why you can still clearly see all these crosses on there. And you know, it would have been very easy to make these crosses, make them look very exact with like a square, because you know, you decide how you divide them up. But these crosses, they remind me very much about. They remind me very much from the Scottish flag, and you know, of course, the flag from Britain. It's a combination of all of the flags in the United Kingdom. Also, maybe some Norwegian or maybe no, that not the. So it's very interesting. But let me continue with this picture right here. This is the one on the right, and what you can see down below me here, there, what you see there, I believe it's the oldest depiction of the six-spoke wheel, and it's in the Ness of Brodgar. It's the oldest depiction in the oldest archaeological site that we have in Europe, that is around Doggerland. So if this isn't a big clue, then I don't know anymore. So yeah, it's an almost perfect circle, and it's divided up into 6 almost perfect parts, and it's very interesting. Now there's some more interesting drawings or carvings that are on here. Obviously, these are not made by the people who made the building. It's probably it's like a later people who carved things on the walls, because yeah, the carvings that are on here, they're definitely a lot more crude than the original building is. But yeah, have a look to on the right there, where we have like the 2 spirals that connect on both ends. It's a very interesting symbol, especially when we get later on into the Celtic culture. It shows up a lot too. So very interesting. And once you see this, all of a sudden you can imagine how the people from the Oera Linda book, how they would have seen these old burgs, which were ancient, which were from the time before, and things would have been carved on the wall, and they would have seen these things, they would have known them, they would have been able to read them, and yeah, it's a very, very interesting connection. Okay, let's continue. Oh yeah, this is also at the Ness of Brodgar. Very triangular pattern, which the triangular pattern gets very interesting in pottery as well. If you go towards the bell beaker culture, but also doesn't this almost look like a six-spoke wheel, you guys? I mean, it almost looks like two six-spoke wheels on top of each other. Now, I'd be happy to if someone has a better picture of this, because this is of course straight out of the archaeological dig. So if you do, please share. Okay. Next up, also on Orkney, we have Scarabray. Now, Scarabray is you know, it has been dug out a lot, and you can see what I'm talking about when I'm talking about more crude stonework. This is definitely it. Even though this still looks very cozy. I mean, if I would go to an Airbnb in Portugal somewhere, it might look something like this almost. You know, have some cute animal skins on the floor, and have a good couch to sit on, maybe a nice lamp, and yeah, you could almost live in this. So not as you know, not the type of people that archaeologists that they say they were when they talk about the bell beaker culture, for instance. And so, with all of that in our mind, I would like to read another chapter from the Oera Linda book for you guys, but not first before we get into our sponsor. And our sponsor for today, of course, is our main sponsor. We're very happy to been partnering with them. It's of course Druid Secret. Druid Secret for everything that you need in your terms of CBD oil or HHC oil or anything that's CBD related, such as CBD bath salt, CBD anything. They have all kinds of beauty products, they have health products, they have different kinds of cannabinoids which are extracted in a laboratory that are very well done. It's one of the cleanest products that's out there. It's not something that's the same as something that your local neighbor does or something like that. It's really a good product that's very quality controlled, and yeah, I love it. I use it myself. Use it for all kinds of things. Whenever you know, whenever I have some trouble sleeping, I have a late night or something like that, I really need to catch up, then yeah, it's always good to have a few drops. You know, if ever there's some ache that I have, you know, some sore muscles, I just use a little bit of CBD oil, and all of a sudden the pain becomes manageable. I recommend it to my girlfriends, you know, whenever the time of the month is out there, whenever cramps start happening, all of that. Try some CBD oil. It won't hurt you. I promise it will not. It's definitely is not psychoactive, and yeah, will only work for your betterment. They try to keep the price affordable, which means that you know, the main profit is not for the seller. They support us, so we get a small cut of it, and you also get a 5% cut if you buy it via us. So if you go there, use the code Paradigm Shift. It's a fantastic product. I definitely promise you that you will not regret it. It is a superior quality as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, also if you're the fun kind of guy or girl, try to see if those HHC gummies are something for you. It could be a cool thing. Also, they have this melon vape. It's something that you can just vape. It can be used indoors, you know, whenever you're not allowed smoking or whatever. You can use the vape. Has a nice melon taste, and yeah, see if you can get something out of it for yourself. With doing that, you're also doing something for us, and with doing that, you're also doing something for the seller. So it's a three-way win-win-win situation. So go over to druidsecret.com, use the code ParadigmShift at your checkout, and have a good time with that. With that said, let's continue to our regular programming. All right, so with that, I'm gonna read you guys a little bit more from the Oera Linda book. I hope you're excited, because I am. I always like reading this book. Every time I read it, I discover something new, something pops into my mind, some new connections are being made. I hope it does the same thing for you guys. So let me pull up the screen. There we go. So you can read along a little bit in the Frya's language. And so today I'm gonna read you about the introduction of the Finns and the Magyars in the Frya country. This was inscribed on the treasure Burg, which is an interesting name for this episode. So let me read it to you. Here we go. Magyars and Finn. This is inscribed on the treasure berg at the Alderga mouth. The treasure berg is not a maiden's berg, but it contains all the exotic and foreign things that the steersman brought here. It is located 3 poles or half a tide south of Medeasblik. This is the foreword. Mountains, bow your heads, weep ye clouds and streams. Yes, Scanland blushes, a slave folk treads upon your gown, O Frya. This is the history. 101 years after Atlantis sank, folk came out of the east. They had been driven out by another folk. Beyond our Twiskland, they had fallen into dispute. They divided into 2 large groups, and each went its own way. Of the one part, no account has come to us, but the other part invaded the rear of Scanland. Scanland was sparsely populated, and the far coast the most sparsely of all. Therefore, they were able to occupy it without conflict, and as they did no other harm, we had no desire to go to war over it. Now that we have come to know them, we want to write about their customs as well as our experiences with them. This folk was not wild like many of Finda's tribes, but similar to the Egyptians. They have priests, like them, and now they have temples, idols as well. The priests are the only masters, and they call themselves Magyars. The Supreme One is called Magus. He is the high priest and king at once. All the other folk count for nothing, and they are entirely under their rule. They do not even have a name, but we call them Finns, because although their feasts are altogether dreary and bloody, they are much more fine or formal than ours. They are not to be envied, for they are slaves of the priest, worse still, of their beliefs. They believe that evil spirits are everywhere and enter into people and animals. But of Ralda's spirit they know nothing. The Finns have stone weapons, while the weapons of the Magyar are of copper. The Magyars claim that they can ban and banish the evil spirits. The Finns are constantly in fear because of this, and their faces never show signs of joy. When they were well settled, the Magyars sought alliance with us. They praised our language and customs, our cattle and iron weapons, which they were eager to exchange for gold and silver ornaments, and they always kept their populace within their boundaries. But that made us complacent. 80 years later, just when the Yule feast had begun, they came on us unexpectedly, and like a blizzard, fell over our lands. Those who could not flee were killed. Frya was called upon, but the Skienlanders had neglected her advice. Then forces were gathered. 3 Poles from Godasberg. The Magyars were fought back, but war continued. Kate, or Catherine, was the name of the burgmaid in Godasberg. Kate was proud and haughty, so she had no messages sent, asking the mother for advice or assistance. But when the burg lords realized this, they themselves sent messengers to the mother at Texland. Minna, as the mother was called, summoned all steersmen and all the other young folk of East Vlieland and the Denmarks. So one of the most important things that we see here is that after the sinking of the Frya's land, which I called Doggerland, is that afterwards there's people coming in, and we discussed this in the last episode. The farmers came in, the Neolithic farmers, and we see that in DNA evidence, and they come from the east. So this connects with the Oera Linda Book, and it's also it's very interesting that the Finnish and the Magyars are connected to each other, because traditionally the Magyars, we know, they settled in Hungary. This is ask any academic and they will tell you that the Magyars came from Hungary. And the Finnish and the Hungarian language, they are connected, even though there's no language in between that is connected. The Finnish language and the Hungarian language, they are connected in the language family tree. So a very interesting connection right away that gives us some hints about what our actually history might have looked like. And then they say that the Magyars, they are a priest type of people, and that they look like the Egyptians. They are not the Egyptians, but they resemble Egyptians in some way. And it's already interesting that the Frya people knew about the Egyptians. So why is that interesting? Well, let me show you. Do you see anything interesting about this? This is an Egyptian depiction of Ramesses II, basically his encounters in the world. What do you call them? Conquests. His conquest in the world. And if you see the wheel, that is a 6-spoke wheel. And now I'm not saying that that this is that the 6-spoke wheel was as significant for the Egyptians as that it was for the Frya people. But there is a very interesting connection with the pyramids of Egypt, the Great Pyramid. And some say that the Great Pyramid of Egypt was built by the Atlanteans. Well, it could be. But I'm not going to rule it out. But there's something more interesting about that, and that is that recently people have found out that it's not only in the pyramid they have found a correlation between the meter and the Egyptian cubit, and what the correlation is. Well, I'm gonna mess this completely up by trying to say this, so I'm just gonna show you a fragment of the clip. Here's a clip of builders of the ancient megaliths.
In order to take measurements, you need a reference, the meter or the yard, for example. In Egypt, they use the cubit, which they say varied in size. But in the Great Pyramid, its value can be obtained with great certainty, since the high chamber is made with precisely assembled granite. The value obtained through the measurements of this room varies between 0.5235 and 0.5236, or 52 centimeters, 3 millimeters, and 5 or 6 tenths of a millimeter. It is the royal cubit used in the Great Pyramid, But then, although these builders didn't know about the meter, their cubit, by some miracle, is connected to it. It can be obtained easily through geometry. This dimension is 1. No unit, just 1. The length of the circle is this dimension times pi. So here we have pi. We divide the circle into 6 parts. Each part equals 0.5236, and what we have left equals 2.618, which is the golden ratio squared. These 3 numbers are connected by this circle, which has a diameter of 1. We went to talk to a man who's been working with ancient measurements for decades.
The famous cubit measuring 52.36. If I multiply it by 6, I find 3.1416. So I have a direct link to calculations, to geometry. The foot is 32.36. So if I divide this by 2, it equals 16.18. I have 1.618 and the golden ratio appears.
If I want to measure this circle, I will need a measuring unit. Let's take the yard. So this dimension equals 1 yard, and this one here, 0.5236 yards. It does not correspond to anything in particular. But if we choose the meter, then this dimension equals 0.5236 meters, which is the value of the royal cubit of the Great Pyramid.
Yes, so let me explain that a little bit if you didn't catch that. So, pi, phi, the meter, and the Egyptian royal cubit, they all connect together if you apply a 6-spoke wheel. And with that can be found, the Egyptian cubit can be found within the Great Pyramid of Giza. So think about that. The 6-spoke wheel is a very ancient tool. So, with that said, we're going to continue back to the Magyars. This is not something that you expect in the Bronze Age, because these are golden hats. Yes, you're right. These are golden hats, and they are, the one on the left. I'm blocking it a little bit. Here, there you go. So the one in the middle, that's the one that you might recognize as a hat. But why on earth would you make such a long hat? These are, by the way, made of bronze or copper, and they are overlaid with gold. So these are very, very interesting. And if you look closely, I mean, what do you see? Concentric circles. The whole thing is littered with concentric circles. And we can go into that. Is why would people why would people make concentric circles on a hat? All kinds of questions do these raise. Why would you build a tall hat like that? Why would it be of gold? Why would it be, all of this? So here we can see these are the gold hats that they resemble. So this is a gold hat, and it resembles a calendar. So people have figured this out. The Berlin Golden Hat. It's a calendar. Supposedly all the circles on top of there, they all have a calendar measuring time, and what it's counting solar months, and it's counting lunar months. So very interesting. So these I think are very associated with the Magyars. And if you remember, if you watched the interview with Jan Ott, I asked Jan Ott if in his research he has found anything when the Magyars had anything to do with the skeletons that were found in Hungary of the elongated skulls. And he said it's pure speculation, and I understand that, because it's not to be read in the Oera Linda book. But however, I still think it's worth to look at this.
This is my favourite place, and it's probably the best display anywhere in the world, and it's in Budapest, Hungary. So if anyone's ever going there, National Museum and the Buda Castle Museum, they've got amazing, amazing displays where you can see everything about the culture, everything materialist, everything that they were using, everything that they were buried with. It's just amazing displays, and we can see this little guy just ominously sitting there, surrounded by all of his material artifacts, and I just love it. So we know what housing they used to live in, what style and what jewellery they were wearing, and there's at least, I say 200 in this, but there's probably more close to about 500, 600 skulls that have been found. And there are about 46 to about 50 sites. And it's not just one skull. I don't want to say it's badly, but we've at least got 10 skulls from Gazdelli, Kizombo. We've got at least 21 skulls.
These skulls are found in masses in Hungary, and you know, if you all piece this together, all of a sudden you kind of get an understanding of how it happens. Now, mind you, this is not standard archaeology, because standard archaeology says the Magyars, they only entered Hungary after the Avars they were in Hungary, and the skulls that you were seeing, they are connected with the Avars. However, the Oera Linda Book talks about the Magyars way before that. They talk about it in the Bronze Age, even before the Bronze Age, possibly. So, yeah, the question really is, what are these priests with these elongated hats doing in Central Europe at the time of the Fryas? I really think that these were the hats of the Magyars. And I want to continue with this in our next episode. We're gonna dive deeper into the Bronze Age and look at all the anomalies out there and the things that that could possibly prove or underline the Oera Linda Book, but not before I want to show you this last picture, because we've been looking from the early Bronze Age into the Magyar people, and now this last image I want to leave you with. This is Pope Bonifacius VIII, and you can just see a continuing tradition of what this tradition is with these longer hat people, and I think it's something that's very interesting, and I think it's a compelling case that can be made, and we can get a little tip take a little tip off, so we can discover who these Magyar people really were. All right, with that said, we have come to the end of our episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode. A lot of research went into it, and I'm doing a lot more research for our future episodes, because we're going to dig through the Oera Linda Book a little bit more and figure out how it actually connects up with our actual history. So if you like this channel, and if you like the content that I'm producing, please don't forget to leave a like. Really want you to press that thumbs up, because it helps our algorithm, and I think this content should be watched by more people who are interested in this topic. So yeah, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. A lot of people who watch our videos are not subscribed. Please do, because we got way more in the pipeline for you guys. Comment, you know, be part of the community. If you like the first section, you can be part of it as well. I love the interactions. If you have something to add, something that I missed, you know, I'm just a researcher on my own. Yeah, I love to make this a community project. So add something if you can. Share this. Share it on any of the platforms that you're on. If you're on Facebook, share it on Facebook. If you're on Twitter, if you're on X, formerly known as Twitter, share it on that. If you're on if you're anywhere else, share it, give it, show it to people. Maybe we can get this community to grow, and maybe we can connect with this further along. Please, before I let you go, don't forget to visit our sponsor, because we want to continue doing this, and we also need to pay the bills, and I really hope that that I can do that by sharing sponsors of products that I actually believe in. I wouldn't want you guys to buy anything on my recommendations that you really don't like. I really believe in this sponsor, and I hope to work with them long term. So if you guys like that, then please buy something there, and buy something for your family. Maybe buy something for a loved one who could really use it. The prices are really I think they're really affordable for the product that they are. So so go over to Druid Secret, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.